Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Tiny things can sometimes survive big explosions. I am your captain, Mariah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. The mech is the person. I am the suit.
And Paul Satachet.
I was like, Clyde, did you introduce yourself or just give it?
Yeah, no, I said I'm Clyde Haynes.
Oh, that's
Clyde.
right. That's right. Okay. We are tonight talking about the Section 31 movie, which was directed by Olatunde Onsunsami, a story by Bo Yeon Kim and Erica Lapolte, with the screenplay by Craig Sweeney. Before we dive into that, we are pre-recording this, so we are not live on our normal Thursday night. We had some things in personal lives, but we wanted to make sure y'all still got our review this week of the movie. But you can visit Apple, Spotify, YouTube to find all of this. If you want to watch our faces while we're talking about this and you're listening, you can check us out on YouTube. All the links and more are at StarTrekPod.co. You can also hang out with us over on the Patreon if you need to debrief and come down from watching this movie with a solid group of people who are very supportive and lovely. That means we don't have any live comments to talk about tonight, but we do have some messages from the menagerie. Yeah, I think we should just get to it because I think we have a lot to say and a lot to discuss and a lot to dive into. So it is time once again for us to dive into some time for some hot freaks. Paul, you look the most excited to give a hot freak.
Oh man, well, you know, there are Star Trek movies and there are Star Trek movies. And I have to say that like this is indeed a Star Trek titled movie. I'm not gonna lie, it was crazy. And not in a way that like, you know, is meant to be good. It was I feel like I've went warp 9 without inertial dampeners. That's what I feel like.
I can feel that. I definitely paused the movie multiple times and kind of said and just sighed.
Like I mean, I stopped the movie and I texted you guys. It goes, "What am I watching?" So like, you know, let's just be there.
We'll be there. We'll get into all of it. Clyde, your thoughts?
Since I've watched the movie, and I've since watched it twice, I have been trying to really place where I put this in the Star Trek movie, like the catalog, right? In terms of, and I think about things like rewatchable, right? And I know this doesn't happen, but you know, I always think about like the movies where if you're sitting at home back when you had like, we all had cable and things were just on. If, you know, Star Trek 2 happened to be on, well, whatever I was going to watch, I'm not about to watch. I'm about to sit down and watch this, right? I'm gonna catch it in the middle. Like there are times where I'll be flipping and like, you know what? I'll just see the ad for Nemesis and I'm like, I'll watch a little bit of it. The first two like Kelvinverse movies, I think are like, I really enjoy watching those. I could turn those on right now and watch them. There are a couple movies like I'm not a huge Generations fan. Like there are elements of it that I like, but I'm like, I don't know that's not going to be like, I have to watch that. Like there's some pieces of it that there's a Guinan piece of it that's kind of neat, but you know, so I've been asking myself, where is this one? And I gotta be honest, like it's a Star Trek movie. So I put it in the catalog. Like if I had them all back on a DVD shelf, right? I'm going to spend the $29.99 or whatever it would cost to get it and put it in my collection. But it's probably going to be in a pristine package. It's not going to have any like worn, you know, the package might be unopened, right? Like
forever.
Maybe not. But what I'm not worried about is I'm not worrying about wearing out the DVD and having to replace it at some point.
Yeah, I think for me watching this movie, I had to as my spouse put it, I had to really switch my brain from the expectation that I went into this with. And I instead switched it to, I love movies that are so bad they come around to being good again. And so I watch a lot of those movies. I watch a lot of sci-fi originals. I watch a lot of Lifetime movies. I
need
a
some
lot
examples.
Of things. I mean, Sharknado is a prime one. Last night I had watched, I did fall asleep partway through, but I watched a film, a Lifetime original film entitled The Bride He Bought Online. So I have a pretty high capacity for
nonsense.
For nonsense. And I love nonsense. I love camp. I love nonsense. And so to me, this could have been, my biggest problem with this movie was it did not know what it wanted to be. And that's my biggest takeaway. But let's get into some of the messages from the menagerie, and then we'll talk about some specifics here. But from Karen, we have, I went into it just hoping they did Giorgio justice. They did, and more. It was like a combo of cheesy martial arts movie, personal drama, Agatha Christie, and a little old-fashioned Western serial feel. I had a really good time. Takako says, while it was a fun watch, I feel like it was a lost opportunity to tell a more substantial story. It felt like an extra long episode, making it a bit frenetic from trying to fit a lot in, but also not giving the story enough time to build emotional stakes in the characters. I'm particularly pained by the fact that the last few minutes between Philippa and San didn't pack the emotional gut punch I'm sure it was supposed to have, and would have if they had spent more time developing him and his relationship with her. Loud music, lots of flashbang made it hard to understand sometimes. It's unfortunate as Michelle Yeoh kicks ass the way she always does, but the vehicle did not come out as well built as she deserves. Also, Giorgio practices percussive maintenance with a little gif of our prodigy crew. So
there we go.
Nice.
I think Takako wraps up a lot of my similar feelings that I had about this. And so you know, the item on my agenda I had up top is just called choices. And
I love it.
I think for me, there were choices made that I think altered the tone of what this was for me, that made it harder for me to really be along for the ride. And prior to us hitting record, I was telling Paul, and Paul was like, explain it to me. I can see where a very compelling season of television was inside of this movie that then got compressed into the main plot points for an unsuccessful movie.
That's an interesting thought. Now you've got me thinking and
because this
trying
is
to see it.
Okay. Here's my pitch. If you were to say, from these ashes, rebuild what this could have been.
Oh, this is good.
If I was to do this, you open this up with Giorgio. I think you don't even miss a beat. It's her coming back in. She's at this bar. We get a glimpse of what her life is like now that she's gone back into this century. And then we get the flashback. And I think we spend at least 2 episodes in the flashback, because if you want compelling relationship with San, I need to see them doing all of these like Hunger Games-esque things together. Right?
That's what I was going to say. Yep. You need 2 episodes of Hunger Games.
I need 2 episodes of Hunger Games if you're trying to establish her as your main character and she's the person we're going to be following. The reverse of that, if she's just going to be someone who pops in and out from time to time, then we need to start with the initial group team up of these other characters. Those are my 2 entryways into this world.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like, I'm fully with you. I think, look, you guys know there are things that I love, and the team up is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't kill off a part of your team up in the first like stanza.
I know, like, why did we even get introduced to this character?
Obviously you can.
Obviously you can. I wonder if y'all felt this. So I've been hearing from a lot of my writer friends that they get the note more and more often that they should have characters say what they're doing, because people are not actually watching screens anymore. They're looking at their little screens while something on a big screen plays. And I felt that to be one of the hardest things for me to get over in this movie, was so often they were saying what they're doing instead of just doing it.
Well, I will say that, like, to that note, television has always been of that tradition. Like, movies have been movies, but television comes from the tradition of radio. like where you go out to the you cook your meal, you can hear the radio, you come back, so in that way radio like
but this is a movie.
I know, but television does have that thing, and I can see how people may have applied it incorrectly to this situation.
Yeah. Like, I don't need her to tell me that San took the same poison as her family. I'm watching him have the same reaction.
Wait, it was the same poison?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Because she literally says it.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I was looking at my little screen, so
yeah, it was things like, we're going to go on this ship and question him. Cut to, we're now walking on the ship to question. Like, I don't need you to say it. Like, just go do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting note. And now I'm almost tempted to watch the third time.
Yeah, buddy.
But I'm not. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, you open that wrapper.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other big thing for me were the like, we have we start with the flashback, right? And then we're essentially having a narrator give us, which should have been Jamie Lee Curtis at the beginning, right? That would have been a way better Easter egg, to having her do the narration at the beginning to then tie to the end if she's Control. I digress. Mm-hmm. But the like, who is like, give me who is listening. I don't know who's listening to this debrief on who Georgiou is. Mm-hmm. It felt like a video game cut screen.
Yep.
And I was like, I get we need to do this for people who don't know who this is 100%. But like, why couldn't we have then cut to a Section 31 ship or a room where Alok is getting debriefed on who Georgiou is? See, you know what I mean?
Here's my super hot take. Ow, it's hot.
Spicy.
So why do you try to like make it so that like people who are just jumping in don't get lost? Like, this is actually, like, at least from my perspective, like, you can make it so that you just need a bunch of foreknowledge or keep up. Like, if you just watch like Game of Thrones and you watch season 3, you're just keeping up. They're not necessarily saying, oh, and that time Joffrey chopped off Ned Stark's head because and like, if you just made it for the fans or made it like, I think that would have been helpful.
Look, I actually agree with you, Paul. I kind of understand.
I love how you qualify all the time, buddy. I actually agree with you.
I do. But so one of the, because I picked up on that as well. I've been reading with my son. I've been reading this series, right? It's a superhero series called Mia Mayhem. And these are short. It's short. Like it's a short book. Like it's like we read like a couple chapters a night and we're done in less than a week. So we're on like book 8. And the frustrating thing about it is every time we start a book, it spends like the first chapter explaining who she is, what she does. And every time she goes to her superhero school, she explains, this is where we meet and this is how I get in. And so it's kind of annoying. And I'm like, these are super simple. Why would you start at chapter 8? Why wouldn't you start at the first book? That is what I kind of felt with this. It's like the difference being there's a lot of Georgiou, right? And so when you think about Discovery and you think about all of that, it's kind of like, was there a clever way to give you just what you needed without feeling like it was forced, so that you didn't have to go back and watch everything? Would be option 1, or option 2, knowing that the people who are going to watch Section 31 are the people who've been kind of following along, at least casually, and have an idea who she is and what the Mirrorverse is, and the Terran Empire and stuff like that, and just jump in and get to it.
Like, this isn't like to jump up on that. This isn't like, you're not trying to make box office for this. And truth be told, no one is going to go, oh, well, Paramount Plus has like Section 31. I better sign up. No one's doing that, just because.
But
it's
I
just
think
so,
they're hoping they do because Michelle Yeoh is like an incredibly hot property at the moment.
maybe. I mean, it's a real interesting play because I don't know.
I think it's hard when they made the choice to pivot from it being a show to being a movie, and like that was a choice that they made, and instead of shelving it. And am I excited that I got to watch Michelle Yeoh do a bunch of fight choreography for 90 minutes? Of course. Because this is what I was going to say. The things that were positives for me, Michelle Yeoh knew exactly what kind of a movie she was in. And I think everyone else, a lot of people failed to keep up, but she knew exactly what kind of movie she was in. I think Sam Richardson also knew what kind of a movie he was in. And I think the guy who played the Vulcan, not Vulcan.
Sure.
Okay.
Like once I got over the video game cut sequence and then the very unnecessary graphics that were showing us the act breaks that we didn't need, because who's reading the transmissions? It says secret transmission. Who's getting the transmissions? I don't know. Again, but then again, it felt like this is a video game and this is the next level. You know what I mean? Like it didn't make it added nothing to the story for me, and it felt unnecessary. And it was a thing to me that felt it cheapened it for me. It made it feel like a sci-fi original film, like
which you love,
which I love, but like that is part of like that. Those are like not good actors, and the plot doesn't have is so outrageous. Like
people try, Mariah. Like you are one tough cookie.
I am a tough cookie. I have high expectations. I have high expectations for good things and bad things. Okay. And you have to know what you're in. It's like
I think that's the hard part though, Mariah. I think
there's no tonal, no one agreed on the tone of this movie.
I don't know. I mean, it's specific.
So I'll say for me, I think part of my struggle was the expectation going in. Like, I think my expectations going in were fairly high, warranted or not. And I think what I was looking for was something probably closer and I don't even know that this was great, but like a baseline of like Battlestar Galactica Razor, right? And to your point, Paul, like I have to go back and rewatch it, but I think you can't be a novice and watch that TV movie without having some understanding about where it's in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it felt very like, okay, we're jumping in like I'd say a Star Wars property, right? Like a lot of Star Wars movies, I think don't make a lot of sense if you have not watched a lot of the other things.
Yes.
In my opinion. And so
there's a Force and then there's an Empire.
There's a Force and an Empire, and there's an Empire here.
And they have pew-pews.
And they have pew-pews. But I think like I can see, because I usually enjoy everything that I lost my tab.
Olatunde?
Yeah. I mean, I like Olatunde as an action director. I think he does really fun things with his DP, with camera work. And so Bo-Yeon Kim and Erica Lapolte, who were the original two who were writing the Section 31 pilot, and like they've written some of my favorite episodes of Disco, and they've like written for the comic books, and Jenny Lumet was like a producer on this. And so it's like I see, and so is Michelle Paradise. And so I'm like, there are hands involved in this that I normally am like, I know you got me. Like, I know you're going to deliver something that I'm going to enjoy. And
which is why my expectations were so high. I'll be honest.
Which is why they were high. And so I'm going to put all my blame on Craig Sweeney. That's the outlier for me. And I don't know. I think it was an impossible task to take what was probably going to be a really cool first season where they have this weapon and they have to get it back. We'd see this relationship and more tension being built. Literally, Jordan can attest, as soon as San died, maybe 5 minutes later, when they're like, who could this be? And I went, it's San, right? Like, I know we just saw him die on screen, but it's gonna be San. And then as soon as it's revealed, I was like, the fact that I could predict it that quickly means that there wasn't enough setup for me to feel that death to be as important as it was to Giorgio and to have an impact on her character. And then for the secondary death of him to actually land of any. But, and I know they're playing on, I mean, perhaps the idea that we all remember that she used to talk about San like in Disco, like
she mentioned him once.
Mentioned him once,
like in front of a portal.
Yeah.
And then she walked in.
Yeah. So I was like, they've been setting this up since she left Disco. So yeah, I mean, to your point, it feels like it's been made for the fans, but the fans, I think, yeah, it was like we got like a double like team up moment. Like we got her dissecting all of the characters for who they are in her bar, and then we got the go around again of who everyone is.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like
I do. Like I know that Craig Sweeney focus was probably not on this show. Partly because he was like he's working on his show. His show is Watson. It's coming out on Paramount.
And he was brought in just to write the movie, not the TV show. Yeah.
And so I could imagine like here is this season that they've outlined out, and he's just taken and compressed it. Like I actually don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is like there is no way that at least I don't understand like who chose the tone, because it just doesn't feel like Star Trek. That's the only like I don't care about like compressing this. I don't compare about like less than stellar writing. Like what I care about is like, oh, what you failed to do was make Star Trek. And there are various forms of Star Trek you could have made. You could have made Kelvin, you could have made Disco, you could have made 90s Star Trek, you could make original series Star Trek. Like it could have been, but like here you chose something else, and what you chose wasn't really even a choice. It was just a bunch of stuff that like it felt lazy. And
because I was like, I love a big campy bar scene, like give me a weird drag queen, but it was like, there was just a lot of weird choices made that I agree. It didn't even feel like Disco. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like the extension of the universe that this character came from. It didn't feel like, I think the way that Strange New Worlds plays with campier episodes in a fun way. So I don't know if it was just like the mixture of the script and like, because normally I think Olatunde gives me some of my favorite episodes of Disco.
I feel Olatunde knew what they were doing, and they chose to make this. And I don't.
The edit. There was some also weird editing choices, I thought. So I don't know if it was. I don't know.
I think when I watched it the first time, and I asked myself, okay, where are they going with this? And Paul, when you texted like, what am I watching? My response to you was Mission Impossible.
Sure.
And the reason why I said that is because it felt like, hey, we've taken you on this quick journey and we've set this up so that we could just make like 10 of these, right? Every so often when Michelle Yeoh has some availability in her schedule, we can pop in and make another one, right? But in order to do that, if you think about Mission Impossible, especially you go back to like Mission Impossible 1, Mariah, to your point, they bring you in and there are a few characters who you really are attached to. And for whatever reason, it did not take them long for you to fall in love with like Ving Rhames' his character, right? And you're like, so when the next one come up, even if they seem like they've split apart, you're waiting for them to come back together, right? And you're like, this is the team. And over the course of the series, doesn't matter how old they get, you're like, this is the team. Now they might bring in a new person here and an extra person here, but you're like, when's the team gonna get back together? But I don't love or care about anybody on this team.
I know.
And I'm an Omari Hardwick fan.
I was just going to say Omari Hardwick is incredible. And I feel like it would have, to me, I know you're like, we have Michelle Yeoh and like want to have her on screen as much as possible. I think the more compelling way in, especially for people who have not watched Discovery, would have been to follow this from Alok's perspective. Like we open with Alok getting this debrief of this person he's got to go collect and why they think they need her. And then you can also then drop a bit of this Easter egg that the reason, because I'm like, why did they even go get her to begin with? We never even really got that beyond that. They're just like, she's existing, someone go check on her. But if it's like in relation to this bomb or this weapon that is from the Terran Empire, then it makes sense why they would need to go and talk to her, right? And so if it's like, hey, we've gotten some intel, there's possible Terran technology, let's go grab our favorite Terran. And then you follow it from Alok's perspective, and then we get that moment when they're sharing their backstory. We then get the flashback to her childhood. And then we, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's just some major structural, like ways I would have restructured the plot to make this an easier pie to digest.
And I think, like, again, I love team ups. And so I'm analyzing the team up nature of this movie. And when I think about, okay, how did you construct this for me? What you did was in one scene, in a very quick motion, you had, Georgiou dissect who's in the room. Right. And then to your point, you go back and go, well, here's who the people are. But if you're thinking about, like, if you go old school and think like the A team, you quickly figure out, hey, here's my team. Here's their gifts. This is why we're together. Like, you understand why this team is together, why they can do things that no one else does. They're superpowers, if you will. And I look around this team and I go, you put a team together. You told me that they kind of had special skills, and I didn't see not one of their special skills, with the exception of
the mech
the
is
chaos
the
agent.
the
But
mech,
and what special skill of the mech did I really see before he was killed? I didn't
just
really
like he like blasted through a bunch of walls.
Yeah,
I think because they're none of these characters were developed for a movie. They were meant for long form episodic development where we got to know each of them and blah blah blah. So I'm like, then you have to do what I call, you have to pull like an Ocean's 11 where you have your core two, you have like your Alok and you have your Sam Richardson character, right? And those are our two guys, and they're like, okay, we need these other players to come in, and oh no, now we have a Starfleet officer who's going to come be our babysitter, and now we're going to go get this Terran badass so that we can take down this weapon. And that's, anyway, I'm like, it's in here. A good movie is in here.
Agreed.
I think I think with like literally a day and a half of reshoots and an editor, I could make this a good movie.
I don't doubt that.
You said you doubt that, Paul?
I don't doubt that. Mariah's talented.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She is a talented person, everyone.
Because you're saying, like, this is an incredible cast. Like, Sven Regok, who plays the Vulcan, not Vulcan, tiny creature, who I'm forgetting what they're called off the top of my head, but that's a very funny comedic relief character, and I thought was really fun and unexpected. It's very Men in Black coded. And that's a fun thing to play with in sci-fi. And then you've got our straight-laced gal who gets a little seduced by Georgiou and is told, to embrace the chaos. And that's like a fun moment. There's lots of fun moments in this that I did enjoy. Also, I thought most of the fight sequences were pretty fun. I loved the phasing fight sequence. That was incredible.
Yes. It was. There were just some elements here that I kind of felt like when I put it together, I didn't know what I was left with. Like, I didn't feel like I was taking on a story from beginning, middle, end, which is what I was expecting from a movie, right? Is like, hey, and then leave me going, I can't wait for the second installment. But that's not what I got.
Like, I'm feeling like it's a dialogue problem because I'm watching it and I go like, they don't talk like they're in Star Trek.
No. I was like, also, when did the tricorders look different from like the 24th century? Because we're missing, I think, a bit of that. Like, I know there's Section 31. And so part of the fun of Section 31 is they do have all the coolest toys, but it's in comparison to the less cool toys that everyone else has. Sure. And so it's like we missed some of that comparison of like the Starfleet character could have been like we've never had these before. You know what I mean? Like she
Mhm.
could have so been that person who helps point out how fun and fanciful a Section 31 is in comparison to other Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like this became a like action comedy, and
I love one of my favorite genres.
so you say, but like, but
Like
I
a
don't.
Rush Hour? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, like like a sci-fi channel version of Rush Hour, sure.
But I was
Uh,
like, like I like Blonde. I liked what is the other movie I'm thinking of that has Charlize Theron in it?
Old Guard.
Mm.
Old Guard is really it leans into that sort of like there's funny moments, but you have attachment to characters when one of them dies, so you actually feel it. And like
Atomic Blonde, right? That's
Atomic Blonde, yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. And yeah, I mean, I also just like love almost all of Michelle. I mean, pretty much every back catalog movie of Michelle Yeoh's as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
which are very
I'll-
action comedy.
I'll watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon right now. Give me a chance.
Yeah, like so. If it's not like ultimately what it comes down, like I would have loved to see an action comedy Star Trek movie. I don't
Yeah.
think I saw that. Like
I think you have to give Tawny Newson a run on the script.
maybe like, but as we could see, like you could make a comedy, like a lower decks comedy, a comedy in the Star Trek universe. That can be done. So
Yeah,
I have no problem with the fact that they tried to do an action comedy in the Star Trek universe. I don't think that they approached it with enough understanding or love of the world, of the thing that makes Star Trek, that they didn't like betray that core. Because like truth be told, if this was not taking place in Star Trek and you call it Star Mech, it would have been totally, like nothing is lost.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I mean, it's funny. It's like I wasn't even trying to think about it as like a start. At one point, I was like, okay, if I don't think about this as a Star Trek movie, am I having a good time? Because like I love Magnificent Warriors, Executioners, Heroic Trio 2, 1 and 2, Butterfly Sword. These are all very like Michelle Yeoh at action comedy peak, in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I'm like, I know that, which is why I'm like, she knows what movie she's in.
Sure. Like
everyone else doesn't seem to know what this movie is.
Like, did you see the closest movie that this reminds me of is Borderlands? Did you guys see Borderlands?
No.
But
I know enough about it. Yeah, I saw the
with Cate Blanchett, right?
Yeah, you should see Borderlands if you want to come. Everyone should see Borderlands if they saw this movie and goes like, what just happened? Because I feel like it suffers from the same thing, like a tone that doesn't fit what it's doing. Like and like and once again, action comedy is a thing. People,
yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed. Did y'all watch Twisted Metal? That series? It's based on the video game.
I did not. That's the one with like.
It's Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatriz. And that is also like a very action heavy comedy. And it plays that well. Granted, it's a TV show over a movie, but it's like they understood how to play, I think, in that really campy world, right?
Yeah. I I look at this movie, and if it were to be the series, or even if it wasn't, if everyone would just treat themselves like they were in like the movie True Grit, by the Coen brothers, it would
because it's supposed to be a Western. Yeah,
it would feel better. But right now, it feels like none of the actors really understood the universe they were in. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm, it's interesting because as you guys are talking, I'm looking at the IMDb rating for these movies that you're talking about, the TV series, because I actually find that the IMDb rating for me is it gives me a range of what to expect, and I never look at it in ahead. I kind of want to go, okay, let me see how close it is. It's interesting because Paul, when you talk about Borderlands and Star Trek or Section 31, their ratings are pretty close.
I'm amazing. Right? People forget that I'm amazing and professional,
but they're also
humble. Those three things.
They're also pretty
I
terrible. But Twisted Metal is actually
7.
Mariah's point, 7.3.
Yep.
And sometimes I'll take a grain of salt, especially when a woman is at the helm of any action series, because so many times those just get ripped to shreds because it's a woman in charge. It's a woman fronted action series. Yeah, so I always take some of the IMDb ratings with a grain of salt. But here's the other thing: some of my favorite movies have terrible ratings.
Granted, but I bring that up just to say, like, I'm trying to figure out like where this is, and I think you guys have nailed it. There's a way to do this genre and do it well, right? And look, I'm not opposed to watching a 5.9. Like I do that because sometimes I just enjoy. Usually, it's less action comedy and more just straight action. Sometimes I just want to see stuff get blowed up. Like that's just the mood I'm in.
Pew pews.
Yeah, a Mad Max situation.
Sure, right? Like I know what I'm walking into, and I say this all the time. If The Rock's in it, if Vin Diesel's in it, I'm probably gonna watch it, and I know what I'm gonna get.
Okay? Can I go on like a small family? Can I go on a small diversion here? Did y'all watch the Golden Globes?
I did not. Oh, I did some of it.
Okay, did you watch when Vin Diesel came out?
No, I missed that.
Okay, so Vin Diesel comes out to give the Box Office Achievement Award, which essentially he's like gave the vibe of I better be getting one of these at some point in my life for everything I've contributed. But the first thing out of his mouth as soon as he walks on stage is just Dwayne, because The Rock is sitting like right by the stage. And so there's just like a tension, and he lets it linger because he knows what he's doing. He lets the tension linger, and then he starts the award presentation, and it is cinema. That is cinema.
He is Groot.
But to your point, I think what both of those actors really get is they understand who they are in the films that they're in, right?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And
they're car superheroes.
They are car superheroes, right? They
went from getting DVDs off the back of a truck to being car superheroes who cannot die.
To be like, oh, we're in space.
Yeah. When Ludacris and Tyrese go to space, it's one of the best moments in cinema history.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
In a car.
In a car.
In a car. Yeah. It's a
they drive
car.
To space.
They're in spacesuits, okay?
They drive to space, guys. Fast and furiously.
But here's the thing about that, though, right? Is that everybody's clear on what we're doing, right? Like it's crystal clear on what we're trying to accomplish. You know, that's the thing that I was looking for. Like typically when you watch a Star Trek franchise, everybody's clear on what we're trying to accomplish. And it's, Paul, you said it. It's like we understand the property, we understand the catalog, and we're playing to the people who really love this. Now, listen, this is to me the harshest like segment
I feel like we've
ever done,
but it was.
But here's the thing: you're talking about three people who spend hours and dedicate their time to this franchise. And look, Paramount, the writers, the actors, they don't owe us anything. But if you're asking me my opinion about something that I'm proven that I care about, you know, Stargate. Now if you look, and here's the thing, I like you go back and watch Stargate, there's some really cheesy episodes in there, right? And listen, I've said it all along, if you come out and you make a Section 31 Part 2, am I gonna watch it? Probably.
100%. Even
yeah, I'm still gonna watch whatever they put out. 100%.
Whatever you put out.
I do. I also wonder because I've been trying to find it, but I cannot. I very much wonder what the budget for this was, because there were some things that tipped me off that it was perhaps not as much as it needed to be to live up to a film label, if you will. Like the interior of the garbage ship was obviously the interior of Rio's ship, right? Like that was just the Picard Rio set.
Like it's all
trashed up.
Like
which I'm all for reduce, reuse, recycle, Rihanna, you know, like those are the pillars.
Sure. Like I believe that the things that could make this better or better for me are not
Hmm.
money based. Oh, I mean, it's time based. It's writing and choices.
Yeah,
but,
because I
like-
mean, the other thing, like the sequence with the like the flashback sequence, those sets looked a little sparse to me.
Mhm.
I think the bar looked great, but that was
Mhm.
also, I think, a reused Picard set. And again, I'm all about reduce, reuse, recycle, but those are the signals
know.
to me that they didn't have a lot of budget to work with on a few things.
Like,
Yeah.
look, not to harp on the same point, but Mech Guy. What's the Mech Guy's name? Robot Man.
Oh.
No, not Robot Man. Like, but the guy in the armor.
Yeah.
Like, whatever his name is. Where would you?
His real name's Robert Cassidy, but
Yeah, his character was Zeph. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was in, he was in the Pacific Rim, right? Zeph.
Mhm.
Like, where would Zeph exist in the Star Trek universe? Like, really?
Yeah,
Where
I
would you
don't
find-
understand what that character was.
Where would you find him? Where would you find?
wouldn't.
Where would you find the Deltan? Because like she didn't act like a Deltan that I've met, and I've met several. I've met them like I've met on the motion picture. And I met them in Picard, and you know what they were? They were really chill. They were hot, bald, chill people. and so like, and so they didn't like have like magical powers or regardless. My point being, like, very few of these characters felt like they were in Star Trek. And in Discovery, you can forgive some of that because they're in the future, and you see what they. But like, you are in prime Star Trek, and even if you're on the borderland,
after an apocalyptic trauma too, right? In Discovery, right? You had the burn, and everybody's freaking out. Like that sets the stage for differences, things you might not expect.
There's a lot of canon play in this movie, and normally I'm like, whatever, canon can be loosey goosey for me. But there was a lot of, like I was saying, with like the tech, like, because this is 40 years before the first episode of TNG.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and ultimately they all felt like, one of the things that makes Section 31 cool is they feel professional. Even Leland, like, felt professional. He was useless, but like it wasn't a Suicide Squad. And so these guys felt very, very much like the rejects of someplace that Section 31 was.
Right, which is why I'm like, if you told this from the perspective of Amari Hardwick, of Alok character, being like, you've been tossed, go take care of this Terran who, somehow popped back up, deal with this. And then this mission fell in their lap of like, oh no, the rejects are already here, we'll just let them take care of it. And then they don't understand the magnitude of it because they can't get a signal back to Section 31, right? And then you're like, we got to fix this. We're the bottom of the barrels, but we'll do it.
Paul, Suicide Squad's a hell of a comp, my guy. Like, that's a really good one, because if you think about how they put the team up together in Suicide Squad, Amanda Waller was like, here's what you get, and she's explaining it to the leader, and she's like, you got this guy, boom, here's his backstory, and then you see clips from their backstory, and you got this person, and they're kind of crazy. We didn't get that. If we had gotten that, like the cohesive and understanding,
it would have been framed in a way that could be acceptable.
Yes,
right.
But to your point, and you're right. Like, typically, if we were thinking Section 31, you have a whole bunch of Amari Hardwicks, right? You have a whole bunch of like very serious, like CIA. It becomes a CIA type of squad, and there's mystery and intrigue and like complexity, right? That is not what we got. What we got was I hate to say it like this. This is just so you know, it's killing me to talk this way. You've never heard me.
Here you are.
Never heard me talk like this on any podcast that we've ever had. But it was a low rent Suicide Squad. It was a budget Suicide Squad, and you didn't tell me what I was getting. And I was expecting Kelvin versus Star Trek is what I was expecting.
Yeah, no. It's like, it's this weird thing where I feel like, even with the script, with minus a dialogue polish, you could have made something that was compelling. And like, as a filmmaker, I go like, no one ever chooses to make a bad film. That's not
No.
generally. But then again, I look at this and I go, or did they?
Or were they
Because,
like, we contractually have to make this, and so we're going to
100%.
make it, and now we'll never have to make another one.
100%. Was this kind of an FU? Because like everyone was,
Was
like,
this
okay,
a FU you cut off disco before you?
Yeah,
So we
no,
I don't know.
like because there's this version of it where I go like, oh, the closest movie that this reminds me of, as far as Borderlands aside, is actually Matrix 4. Like, like if you watch Matrix 4, like, the one, the latest one.
Yeah, Matrix
I'm-
4 was a far better movie than this one.
I was gonna say I don't know if I can co-sign on this one, Paul. I've been with you all
I was
night.
like, I really liked Matrix 4.
I think you're out there on your
enjoyed
own,
the
buddy.
tongue-in-cheek
Okay.
of it all.
Yeah,
I've been with you all night, man.
Yeah.
But
no,
it
like,
knew the tone. It knew what kind of a movie it
like,
was.
and so what I mean to say is like it diverged from the Matrix. Like, it
Okay.
did not
Sure.
feel of the three movies. It diverged, and its winningness comes from the fact that, like, oh, well, here are these people who are committing to it. Like I watched Matrix 4. Like, here you go. Wait. You ready? And only for visuals, everyone. But like, but like,
To your point though, Matrix 4 did not play to people who hadn't seen the first three
100%.
Matrix. If you hadn't seen the first three Matrix and you tried to jump in Matrix 4, they did not care for you. This is not for you. Go back and watch those other three, and then you'll understand what we're talking about. Like, they were like, I'm not serving you, and rightfully so.
Just some things I did really enjoy. I thought all the costumes were great.
Sure.
I thought Michelle Yeoh looked incredible. I actually thought all the wigs were also really good. Often in these movies, the wigs are terrible. Wigs looked great. And yeah, I thought there were some fun sets.
Mhm.
And Michelle Yeoh is great.
I like
What did y'all think about the Jamie Lee Curtis cameo at the end?
I go. They're best friends now. They must be best
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
I like the casting of this movie, actually.
I was like, here's the thing. I feel bad because I like all of these actors. And like, I think if they had been given a whole season to play these characters, I would have really liked this show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Because you have great archetypes set up. You have your himba robot. You have your like fast talking with a Scottish accent Vulcan, not a Vulcan, different species that's fun to play around with lots of good jokes. You have your stick up your butt Starfleet. You know what I mean? Like, all the archetypes are there. There was obviously some romantic tension between Michelle Yeoh and between Giorgio and Alok, like hot. Okay. And like, if I had been able to get a little more of like the Hunger Games set up, like, I also thought the young actors were really compelling. And so
Sure.
it's like they like, casting really did it. And like shouts to like
So here's a question. Like, here, and this is probably my favorite part of the movie. Yeah, like, when did you know that she poisoned her family? Spoiler.
the second she looked at the pot the second time.
Yep.
That's right. Like, because to me, I go like, she's walking over the hill. He goes, "Oh, it's Giorgio."
I was
back.
either expecting like the full battalion behind her.
Uh-huh.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, like, she's back. I go like, this is not going to end well. And
The
then like,
minute that her mother said, "What did you do?" I was like, "Oh, they're all gone. Like, they're all gone. Every one of them."
and I actually think that, like,
And to open with a child death, like, what a wild risk to take as your cold open, you know?
and I actually I was in for that. Like,
I was here. I was like, oh, we're going dark. Because that was the thing. The cold open was dark. And so
Mhm.
then to me, that is the tone you have set for this movie. And
Sure,
if that's not the tone that we're following through, then I need a different open. I need here are your rejects, sir. Go get Michelle Yeoh. Go
Mhm.
get Giorgio out of this place. So I understand the tone of what this movie is. And then we can get these flashbacks to understand this character and why why she built this crazy weapon to decimate everything.
because no one deserves to have anything. No one gets nice things.
No one gets nice things. Yeah, I mean, I can see where Bo and young Kim and Erica Philippole, like I'm like, I see what your vision was going to be, and I'm so sad you didn't get to execute that season of television, because it would have been really compelling to see the past catching up with Georgiou in this way of like, she made this giant weapon and now she has a conscience, the monster with a conscience. And how do you manage being that person? Like, that's a really cool theme to play with for a season of TV.
You know, Mariah, you're making me think about that, right? And I'm thinking, to your point, there's a kernel, like there's a core of what we saw that, if done well, and I think that everybody involved could have done it extremely well at a high level.
100%.
As a TV show. So the way I look at this is, if you give me 13 episodes, you know I want 20, but if you give me 13 and you show me the team up, the backstory, how we're bringing people together, you've got a big bad in San that's gonna go. Maybe you've got some B plots.
You've got more than one encounter with San, so that the tension really
Yes.
builds over their relationship, so that the death has meaning at the end. Like,
and maybe you don't know who is this mysterious character, right? And they're trying to solve like mini episodes. Like, they've got episodes where they're trying to solve something. They're doing Section 31 stuff, and over the end, it's like there's a lot of ways that this would have been. I think for someone who wasn't expecting a Section 31 show to ever be their favorite, there's a story and a path in there for me to walk over and go, I don't know, this might be almost as good or better than Strange New Worlds. It could have really been in the top 2 or 3 for me, but that's not what.
Yeah, because I mean, the log line is a compelling show. It follows Philippa Georgiou as she works with Section 31, a secret division of Starfleet tasked with protecting the United Federation of Planets, and must face the sins of her past. Like, it's a solid log line for a series. Like, I would watch that.
That gets
series.
you greenlit by any studio that you're pitching to.
And it could have been a good. It's like, did it need to be longer? Are there scenes that are on the cutting room floor that would have made this better and the tone more understandable? I don't know. I'm assuming not, but like, I don't know.
The moment Zephyr, actually the moment the what you call it, the cut scene came in, it was over, because the dialogue was not of Star Trek. The moment that Zephyr, is that his name? Robot Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the moment his dialogue is particularly egregious as far as like not of Star Trek. And like, the lines can be good, but it's not of the universe. So like, it's one of those things that, like, when you watch anything Star Wars, it feels like Star Wars.
Didn't he literally say aliens are having, like, we never usually hear them say the words aliens, right?
Yeah, well, what
like
does alien mean in Star Trek?
Yeah, when he crushes through like the Andorian getting it on, like, it should have been like, I didn't know that was what Andorians had in their pants. You know, like there could have been so many ways to have funnier in like Star Trek lingo jokes.
Hundo.
I don't know. Like, so I'm back on IMDb and I'm looking going, okay, so I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm thinking, well, maybe it was the editor. So I'm like, okay, well, what has the editor done? And I'm looking, edited 4 episodes of Discovery and, Cobra Kai and Short Tracks and a lot of stuff that I was like, oh, these are pretty good. Like, I loved Code Black. They did 4 episodes of Code Black. I'm like, everybody a part of this seems like they, on paper,
but they have
potential to be done TV,
and this is a movie, and I think it is. I essentially, the way that I really got through it, and I think found myself enjoying it, is I then just said, this is a really long pilot.
Okay, cool.
It's like an extended pilot, and that was the way I got through it. And then it's like, oh, pilots are hard. You got to introduce all these people. Pilots are hard. And like, I would watch a season of this show after this. I would watch a season of this show after this pilot.
I'd watch a second episode of this show after this pilot. I'm not committing to a season yet. You haven't given me characters that I love yet. Like, and I'm big on characters that I'm rooting for, that I can see myself. You haven't given me that yet. You've given me a couple, but I'm not sold on this team. You killed a couple people that I thought would have been interesting to follow along. So
like the Delton,
the bald
the Delton. I'm sure she was very compelling in the TV show version, and then we would have been really devastated at her loss.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I agree. But what can we what can said? Like, no use crying over spilt synthahol. See?
Yeah.
Once again, there you go. See, Star Trek.
Gersha Phillips did
See?
the costumes again. Gersha's the shit. So she really popped.
I'm telling you, this was going to be a hell of a TV show, yeah, guys. Like, this
it would
was
have been
going
a
to
hell
be
of a TV show.
just amazing. I would have been so surprised that I loved this TV show this much. I think that's where we were headed.
And the thing that makes me mad is, like, I love when Clyde says, "Paul, you were right," and I'm not going to get that today. I'm not going to get that from Section 31 of the series, and I feel robbed.
Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
It's rough. It's also rough, and the thing that's the most disappointing is that it does seem to be a pretty, like, from a lot of people that I respect their opinions, also have the same opinions as we do. And at first, because I saw some of the opinions rolling in on the internet when this first started, but it was a lot of like truck bros, and I was like, I don't listen to them. You know what I mean? And I was like, the truck bros. And then I saw like people I actually like and respect being like, oh no. And I was like, oh no. And then I was like, but I still have to watch it. And I like a lot of things. And I am usually quite the ray of positivity. So this truly hurt my soul. And the thing that disappoints me the most is that because this did not fare well, either critically or land with fans, it means it's a significant decrease in us getting this as a TV show version, which I think would have been the better version. And then 2, it's also going to very much limit if we ever get another Star Trek, at least TV movie. That's not in the Kelvin. Like, there's still some like potential Kelvinverse things supposedly in development, but it really hurts that we are probably not going to get to see any of our Disco fam in another movie, which hurts my little heart.
Aw.
I think you're right. I mean,
How do you things survive big explosions sometimes?
It's a good question.
That was a good one, Paul. Tiny things surviving.
I know. I'm like, what? Hopefully the rest of Star Trek survives this big explosion.
That's right.
Yes. All right.
But let us know what you thought. Chime in the comments, hang out with us over on the Slack. You can find us over on Blue Sky now. We're at Star Trek Disco Pod. So we're no longer in the evil place that is owned by the evil peoples. For now. Who knows who owns Blue Sky for now? But we're there for now. We're over there. We'll be back again. We're gonna wrap up our Deep Space Nine Section 31 coverage, and then we ain't got any other Trek on the horizon, y'all. So let us know what you want us to dig into in this in between times. Ooh, maybe we could do the OG animated series. I don't think we've done that as like a watch.
Big Spock.
That could be fun. So let us know if you think what you think about that, since I think we're waiting for Strange New Worlds, and that would be kind of fun to be in the same universe.
Sure.
And animated at least. Okay, y'all. We will see you all next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Bye.